Mother Gertrude had deposited in a nest she had dug on a stretch of beach located on the eastern shore of Florida. Gertrude intuitively knew that the baby turtle developing inside that 100th egg would be destined for greatness, and named the unborn baby Larry, which in turtle language means special one or great one. After laying her eggs, Gertrude carefully covered the nest with sand, bid her gestating brood a fond farewell, and then dragged herself back to the ocean, never to return. When he hatched, Larry was about 4 inches long and had a beautiful soft shell. Within minutes after hatching, he had tunneled his way to the surface of the sand. Upon reaching the surface, he saw that he was not alone. With him were all of his brothers and sisters, who, like him, were all newly hatched. Now, in order to survive, they would have to make a perilous trek across the beach to reach the ocean where they would be safe. No one craved the feeling of the refreshing swathe of the cool ocean surf more strongly than Larry. Although small and vulnerable, Larry was determined to live. Boldly thrusting his legs deep into the sand, he began his journey to the ocean. With each step, he implored his brothers and sisters to make haste. "Let's go! Move quickly!" he cried. "If we don't make it to the ocean, we will die!" Undaunted by the dangers on the beach, Larry placed himself at the front of the group and led the march to the sea. Immediately after taking the lead, he was attacked by a crab. But the crab was small and inexperienced in the ways of killing, and Larry was able to fend off the marauder with little difficulty. But dealing with the seagulls proved to be a far more challenging task. From every direction, these dangerous birds swooped down, picking off Larry's brothers and sisters one by one. Larry himself almost succumbed, but he was able to evade attack by crawling under a piece of wood embedded in the sand. From that vantage point, Larry could see his brothers and sisters being slaughtered as they attempted to reach the ocean. What Larry saw filled him with rage, and he swore that one day he would take revenge on those creatures that have caused his kind so much misery and death. Why should turtles be treated so horribly, Larry asked himself. We have a right to live too, he thought with great conviction. Finally, the carnage stopped. No more baby turtles could be found. The seagulls circled the beach one more time, looking for any stragglers, and finding none, flew away. After the birds were gone, Larry crawled out from his hiding place and continued his march to the ocean. When he was about 40 feet away from the shoreline, he came across the carcass of one of the baby turtles whose half-eaten body was now rotting in the sand. This gruesome sight made Larry's blood boil with anger, and it reinforced his determination to make the beach safe for his kind. Suddenly, Larry saw a crab charging straight toward him. The crab was big and powerful. Larry had no time to hide and so had to fight. The crab grabbed Larry in one of his pincers and started pulling Larry toward its gaping mouth. But Larry fought back. With a strength that surprised the crab, Larry broke free from the crab's hold and then bit the crab on the top of its head, causing the crab to retreat in confusion and pain. The baby turtle actually fighting back was unprecedented. The other crabs on the beach took notice of this amazing event, and Larry was bothered no more. Finally, Larry reached the ocean. He was alone. All of his brothers and sisters were dead. By now, his anger was boundless, but as soon as he entered the water, he felt immediate pleasure and relief. He no longer had to crawl. He could now swim. He soon came to know and admire the myriad of creatures that inhabit the ocean. There were fish in all shapes and sizes, and they all seemed to be very friendly. There were also huge clumps of seaweed, where Larry, who was by nature a vegetarian, could eat kelp and sleep undisturbed at night. Living in a secure environment helped to ease Larry's anguish. Larry thoroughly enjoyed his life in the ocean. For him, it was bliss. As the years passed, Larry grew to be big and strong. When he reached full maturity, Larry was an impressive sight to behold. He was over 5 feet long and weighed almost 500 pounds. He was a handsome turtle with a large, majestic head and a beautiful shell that displayed a kaleidoscope array of colors. He was the envy of the sea. Over the years, Larry made many friends. His best friends were Solly the Stingray with his long, pointed tail, Bobby the Porpoise with his perennial smile, Calvin the Squid with his big eyes and long legs. All day long they frolicked in the waves and laughed, led by Larry, who organized the fun. But despite his good life, Larry lacked peace of mind, for he never forgot his vow. One day, while playing with Calvin, Larry suddenly turned away and started swimming west. Calvin, greatly surprised, quickly swam over to Larry and asked, "Why have you stopped playing?" Larry stopped swimming and told Calvin that he had to return to the place of his birth. "But why?" Calvin asked. "Everything you need is here," he implored. Larry said, "I know, but I must keep my vow." "What vow?" Calvin asked, perplexed. "It's something you won't understand," Larry said. "I thought we were friends," Calvin said, now feeling hurt. "You're my closest friend, Calvin," Larry said. "But I must leave now." "I'll miss you," Calvin said, and started crying. Larry said, "I'll miss you too, but I'll be back someday. Promise." Calvin continued to cry as Larry swam away. Despite his anger, Larry had a friendly, easygoing disposition. While growing up, he never hurt anyone and always was helpful to others. And while swimming back to the place of his birth, Larry's personality changed. He felt the anger, which had been long suppressed and almost forgotten, welling up inside him. And this anger grew stronger and stronger with each passing day. This anger in turn fed the obsession and impelled Larry to swim on and on, completely indifferent to his surroundings. After swimming continuously for 5 weeks, Larry saw in the distance the stretch of beach where he was born and almost died so many years before. During his journey, Larry had not eaten. Yet he did not feel hunger. What he did feel instead was an unshakable belief that he had something important to accomplish, something that had to be done, even if it meant his death. As Larry approached the beach, he was embarking on something that no male loggerhead turtle had ever done before. For the first time in the history of his species, a male loggerhead turtle was returning to the place of his birth. Heretofore, only females had returned to the beaches to lay their eggs. The males had no business being on the beach. Their place was in the ocean. Or so was the case up until now. But Larry had no interest in being a show-off. He had more serious concerns, and if anybody had told him that what he was about to do was unprecedented, it would not have mattered to him in the least. All Larry knew was that he had something important to accomplish. It was night when Larry swam into the beach. The beach was deserted, but that did not cause Larry any worry. Instead of feeling loneliness or fear, he felt strangely invigorated and bold. and instead of feeling sluggish from the weight of his massive shell, felt almost light as a feather. With little effort, Larry walked across the beach, found a comfortable-looking sand dune covered with grass, dug a hole in the sand, and soon fell asleep. Larry awoke with the dawn. He felt refreshed and ready to meet the day. He also had a craving for food and a desire to explore. The beach was littered with refuse left by the people who use the beach during the day. Wherever Larry went, he saw empty soda bottles, paper bags, and cigarette butts. Larry was depressed by the condition of the beach and was doubly convinced that returning to the place of his birth was the right thing to do. Now he had a score to settle, not only with the creatures who had killed his brothers and sisters, but also with the humans who had turned his birthplace into a garbage dump. The world must learn to respect the turtle, Larry thought to himself. Then he saw something a couple of 100 feet away that immediately caught his attention. 2 seagulls were fighting over the remains of a baby loggerhead turtle. Carefully concealing himself in the sand, Larry slowly approached the birds. The birds did not know that they were being watched and continued to shriek with delight as they fought over the turtle's remains. To them, devouring a baby turtle was as natural as breathing or flying. After all, they were the masters of the beach, so they thought, and nobody could tell them what to do. And it would be foolhardy for anyone to challenge them, especially a turtle who, if he valued his life, would think twice before trying to confront a group of seagulls. "Oh, what a scrumptious turtle!" one seagull crowed to the other, a morsel of turtle meat hanging from his beak. "Ooh, it sure was," the other happily agreed. "I can't wait to find some more." It would never have occurred to them that the turtles had feelings too, and they would have laughed out loud at the very thought of it. As they continued to cackle with delight, little did they suspect, nor could they possibly know, that soon their world was going to change. Larry sneaked closer and closer to the seagulls, who continued to enjoy their feast. Suddenly, with a burst of energy, Larry, using his powerful flippers like springs, jumped out of the sand and ran straight toward the birds. The seagulls were shocked. They never saw a turtle behave this way before. Larry shouted to them, "Leave that turtle alone," and continued to charge at the birds, who had now taken to flight. Flying above Larry, the seagulls asked, "Why are you angry at us?" "Because you birds are nothing but murderers," Larry said, looking up at the circling seagulls. "I was born here, and as a baby turtle I saw what you birds did to my brothers and sisters, and now I'm back to seek my revenge." "It wasn't us," the seagulls complained. "Oh, we want to be your friends," they insisted. Larry was not moved by their offer. Instead, a feeling of hatred welled up from deep inside him, and Larry looked up at the birds and said, "We can never be friends as long as you continue killing little turtles." But we've got to eat," the birds lamented, "and if you stop us, we will die." "That is not my concern," Larry retorted. "I will protect the beach from bad birds like you. Now go away." The birds continued to fly above Larry. Finally, one of the seagulls said, "What you're doing is wrong. This is the way things are, and it has always been this way. We're sorry about what happened to you when you were a baby, but we were not even alive at the time." "So what? That matters nothing to me," Larry said angrily. "You are the descendants of those who hurt my family, and so you must pay the price for what your ancestors did. So be off with you now and tell all your friends not to return. Angry and bewildered, the seagulls flew away. Larry turned to the half-eaten remains of the baby turtle. He buried the remains of the turtle deep in the sand and then resumed his exploration of the beach.